right, let's see. I think everybody has connected to audio. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our virtual panel today. We have a career exploration panel, which is put together by the Career Education and Workforce Development Department at Glendale Community College. My name's Brianna Dulay. Today's panel, we're focused on the arts, media, and entertainment and some of the different career options within those industries. We have an amazing lineup of panelists here to talk to you today. But before we get to them, for anybody who might be unfamiliar with GCC's programs, we do have a good wealth of programs ranging in arts and media, from animation, photography, graphic design, acting, cinematography and editing, film, digital content specialist, TV, electronic media. We have all kinds of different programs to choose from. For more information on any of those programs, you can visit our website, which is glendale.edu/careered. So moving into our panelists, we do have an incredible lineup within the arts, media, and entertainment professions. I will be introducing them one at a time, and then at that point, they're going to share their career journey with you, as well as any key pieces of information from their professional field that they think you should know. After both of our panelists have had the opportunity to speak, we're going to have a brief Q&A at the end. So please, as we're going along, type your questions into the chat box and we will get to those at the end. And so without any further ado, I'm going to be introducing our first panelist. Up first, we have Clarence Williams. And Clarence is a photojournalist, an American photojournalist who worked for the Los Angeles Times from 1996 to 2003, and he won the Pulitzer Prize in 1998 for feature photography. So welcome, Clarence. You now have the floor.
Thank you. Well, the way I got into photojournalism, it's not a great story. It's actually rather silly. I was living in Los Angeles, and I had this dream. I was going to go to I think it was like the Bicycle Poker Club, and I was going to have a great night. I went to the poker club. I lost all my money. I called my mother. I said, "Mom, I had a dream though. I went to the club. I lost my money." My mom says, "I'm not going to send you any money, but if you come home and finish school, I'll send you a plane ticket." And I was just like, "Are you kidding me? All right." I go back home to Philadelphia. I'm looking through the course catalog, and I noticed that to become a photojournalist, it was the smallest list of classes. So I'm like, let me just do this so I can get my mother off my back. Lo and behold, I fall in love. It was the most incredible thing, because now I discovered it's a way that I can be involved in making a difference in this world. With that said, I truly dedicated myself to being a photojournalist and making a difference. Fast forward, a couple internships, work at the Times, start off as an intern, become a staffer, win a Pulitzer, and then life happens. A parent gets sick, so I have to take care of a parent. That parent passes away. The next thing you know, when my father passes away, he tells me that, through these years, I haven't told you that your mother's not doing too well. Now I have to take care of my mother. While all this is happening, I go to New Orleans for a wedding of all things, and I end up spending 3 days on a roof during Hurricane Katrina. And that kind of turned my life upside down. So now you can play the video, Brianna.
Sorry, one second. Let me just pull it up. All right, here we go.
Oh no!
Is it not playing?
It is not. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Let's not waste time. Our time is of the essence. But let me continue. So anyway, um, after I survived Hurricane Katrina, I end up being a professor at the University of Southern Mississippi. And then I run their photojournalism department for a decade. Then after that, I worked for a city councilman as his director of communications. And then I make my way back to Los Angeles. Now, just to talk about the field in general, I took a survey of some of my former students and some of my colleagues that I've been friends with for decades. If one wants to be a photojournalist these days, if you work at a small newspaper, let's say in Mississippi or Texarkana, Arkansas, you'll probably make about $30,000 a year. Some of my former students are freelancers that are doing quite well, and on a good year, they may make $79,000 a year. Now, some older photojournalists like myself that have been doing this for decades, they may have a good year where they may make as much as $170,000 a year, but then that next following year, you might be back down to $50,000 a year. Now, another photojournalist who is still working, who's in his 70s, I was talking with him this morning, and he's on Medicare, but he's still putting his books out there. He's still very passionate about what he's doing. But the career, our world has changed. It's pretty obvious. Our world has changed drastically. And actually, I find myself in a situation that I am slowly moving away from photojournalism myself, to the point that I have written my first novel. So I am turning away. But the advice that I would give is that if you want to be a photographer, taking photography is not enough. Having a gifted eye is not enough. You need to take some business classes, because you will be a business person. You need to take some marketing classes, because you're going to have to promote yourself. The world is very different than when I started. That world just really doesn't exist anymore, because when I was pursuing internships, first thing is they were all paid, and they were numerous, and there were lots of newspapers. Most cities had 2 newspapers. That's just not the way it is anymore. So the world has changed, and you have to embrace that change. And I think more of it is that you don't go into this to make money, journalism that is. You go into journalism to make a difference, to tell people stories, to hopefully play a small part in changing this world. And that pretty much sums up, my thoughts about it. Rihanna, you have any questions for me?
Yeah, so you talked about some of the knowledge needed,
Yeah.
doing some business classes, marketing. Any other skills or degrees or certifications or anything else that you would recommend somebody to get into?
No, but I think no, I think that's really along with trying to really perfect your craft. It's just you have to be able to market yourself these days. And if you aren't willing to market yourselves, um, it's not going to work. Our world has, these last 20 years, as we all know, we live in a new era right now. And I would just say, yes, the marketing, the business class, because you have to be a business person. Most of my friends that are truly successful freelancers, one of their, not a complaints, but one of our conversations is that, you know, they spend just as much time working on the business aspects of their business as opposed to just making pictures. When I was working at different newspapers and had different internships, all I really had to worry about were pictures, because you were collecting a paycheck and you had benefits, but now you have to create all this on your own. And so therefore, it's a different world, but that's basically what you need to do.
Perfect. Great advice. My name is Maricela. I'm also a career education counselor. For students that are in the Zoom right now, I'm going to share our website where you can explore our programs. And you can also start exploring different classes within different programs that we have, such as the marketing internship classes that we offer. So start thinking about the winter and spring semester for you to start enrolling in classes. Thank you so much for that great advice.
My pleasure.
Clarence, if I can, I have one more question for
Oh,
you. So what brought you to photojournalism, photography? What was that driving force for you?
After my shenanigans as a young man, at the very beginning of it, after I made my first few, after I realized the power of it and I started studying it, I came to realize that all the differences, all the changes in our world, photos have played a part of it. The civil rights era, uh, women's rights, every change that has come about in our society, images has played a very strong role. And the way I describe it is this was my way to be a part of the revolution for creating a better place for my son, for everyone, because I think we desperately need to live in a very different world. Because I don't know about you, I am not cool with what's going on. And now, as I start to segue and switch a little bit, I'm hoping to do the same thing, but through the written page.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do agree that images play a huge part in everything in society, media in general, the influence and everything. So thank you for bringing that point up.
My pleasure.
We'll see at the end if we have any additional questions for you.
Sure.
For now, we are going to introduce our second panelist. So our next panelist is Eugene Ramos, script coordinator at Netflix. Eugene has co-written a number of award-winning shorts, including Dandelion Fall and They Charge for the Sun, which was nominated for a Humanitas Prize. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eugene, and I believe you wanted to share your screen, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. I am Eugene Ramos, and I am a screenwriter. I'll talk about script coordinating in a little bit, but that's one step to becoming a screenwriter. So I've been watching television since, I don't know, as far back as I can remember. And I knew very early on watching TV, watching movies that, you know, stories have this amazing power to communicate emotion. And I love that, and I wanted to be able to do that. So probably around when I was 10 or 11, I started writing short stories. And when I got into high school, my high school didn't have any creative writing classes, so I started taking classes at my local community college. When I got into college, my folks, being both medical professionals, wanted me to get into pre-med, but I continued on the writing track and I became an English major, so I could read the classics and learn how to write. And now I also became a psychology major, so I could figure out how people thought. And so I read so much Shakespeare in college that I left with a degree in 16th century British Lit. After that, I went to film school at Columbia University in New York City. I got my MFA there, my Master's in Fine Arts in screenwriting. And I wrote a romantic comedy about Isaac Newton that won a grant from the Tribeca Film Festival. And I used that money to move to Los Angeles about 5 years ago. And since then, I've participated in a bunch of fellowships and programs, including the Cape New Writers Fellowship, the CLARENCE Science Fiction Writers Workshop, and Film Independence Project involved. And it was through Film Independent that I wrote a short film called A Charge for the Sun, which is an Afrofuturist sci-fi film that was nominated for Humanitas Prize, which some people consider the Pulitzer Prize for film and TV. And then I joined the Netflix show Daybreak as the showrunner's assistant and script coordinator. And that's that's a step you need to take to get into television, to be an assistant. And script coordinating basically involves proofreading scripts and getting the scripts to the right people. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's basically what the job entails. And then most recently, my Isaac Newton script won the Humanitas New Voices Prize. So I'm currently going through that program. But I want to go quickly through some of the stuff I think you need to break into industry. And let me share my screen with you. All right. So, well, this is starting up. I'll start talking about some of the ingredients that I think you need to get into to Hollywood. So one of the things that you obviously need is talent, and for some people, talent is something you're born with. For others, it's something you work on. You hone your craft. You go to classes. You go to film school. I think it's both, where someone has an inherent affinity towards wanting to write, and they spend years honing their craft. But I don't think talent is the most important thing that you need. It's this next thing, persistence or grit. Getting into Hollywood is incredibly difficult. Basically, for every yes you get, you're going to get 100 no's or 100 rejections. You need to be able to get over that, and you need to be able to continue and not give up. You guys might know the director Kevin Smith. He's directed movies like, shoot, I can't remember what movies he's directed. But anyway, he's not the best director, and he'll admit that anytime he'll talk about directing. But what he had was persistence. He went to film school. He's met all these directors who are way more talented than him, but he didn't give up. And when people told him no, he would self-produce his own movies. So persistence is very important. The other thing is friends. So when I moved to LA, I didn't think I needed to know people in the industry. I figured I have this award-winning script. People are going to talk to me. People will open up doors for me. And that's just not the case. Hollywood is all about who you know. And you need to build up your network. You do that by taking classes in film, by going to networking events. And all of a sudden you'll find people will become familiar with your work, and they will open up opportunities for you. And the last thing is luck. That's like the big X factor in this. The thing with luck, though, is that once that opportunity presents yourself, you need to have your scripts ready. You need to have your network ready, so that you could take advantage when that luck presents itself. So let me go into a couple ways to break in, 4 ways actually. And this is, I'm stealing this from a director named Dean Lim. And he talked about how he broke in as a director, or 4 different ways you could break in as a director. First thing is nepotism. If you guys watched the Emmys, you would have seen that there's a gentleman named Dan Levy who won a bunch of awards, and he won Best Writing for Schitt's Creek. And he got that job, and he said this in the speech, that his dad, Eugene Levy, gave him that job. And he had no experience writing. He just was put into the writer's room, and he rose up the ranks and became the showrunner. So if you know someone in the business, they could get you in. And this is also how your network helps. If you have someone who's working in a show, you could ask them for a favor, and hopefully they could get you a way in. Another way in is fellowships and programs. And here's a list of some of the big fellowships and programs and the upcoming deadlines. So what these do is that if you have a script ready, you could submit to these programs. And if you get in, what they do is they prepare you to be staffed as a writer on a show. The Academy Nickel Fellowship is the only one that's screenplay specific for features. The other ones are TV specific. CAPE and HBO are TV, or CAPE, HBO, and Humanitas are TV and film. But these are incredibly important, and they do open up doors for you. Almost everyone who goes through these programs gets either staff or gets far along in their journey to becoming a writer. The other thing to do is try to get a job as an assistant. These jobs are hard to find, especially now with the pandemic going on. But this is how I got into Netflix. I started off as the writer's PA on the show Daybreak. And when the showrunner's assistant left, I was promoted to showrunner's assistant. And I also took over the duties of script coordinator. And once you prove your worth as an assistant, you're likely going to be promoted as a staff writer. And once you're a staff writer, you still need to fight for that work. But you could quickly climb up the ladder. The way it works, the hierarchy is that you could get promoted to story editor next, an executive story editor, and then co-producer, producer, co-executive producer, and executive producer, which is oftentimes a showrunner. And with each bump up the ladder comes with a huge pay raise. So that's where the grit and persistence comes in. You just got to keep going. And the last bit of way to break in is to hammer your way in. I'm not a big fan of this, but this is where grit and persistence comes in as well. The way Dean had explained this to me was that if you know someone in the industry, don't be afraid to just ask them for help. Ask them for a job, a PA job or somewhere low level, and just keep asking them. If they say no, wait a couple months, email them again and ask. And he said it works a lot. So if you try all 4 of these tracks at the same time, you'll have a good shot of hopefully getting that job as a writer in a TV show. And that's my presentation.
Thank you so much, Eugene. Marcella, do we have any questions for our panelists yet?
Not at the moment. With that said, let me share a little bit more of our also program so students could explore a little bit more. Great presentation, great feedback from both of the panelists. This is exactly what we were looking for our students, because they're always asking questions about the industry, especially, you know, what can we do at the moment, especially now that about where we are in this pandemic, is like, how can we advance for the future, right? So you both provided good information for our students. Let me share this with in the chat. Go ahead.
I one thing. I was talking with a friend. I get how it came about. But one thing you might want to think about doing is cleaning up your social media. And I realize everyone's young, but if you have things that can bite you, they will bite you. People really do look, and it would be terrible to have things appear as though they're starting to break and flow for you for something that you posted on a drunk night. So, I mean, really take the time and go through everything, because future collaborators, future employers, future colleges, they go through your social media. So take the time, get rid of the dumb stuff. It's really important that you do that.
Definitely. Good words of advice. Did you have anything else, Marcella? Or otherwise, I had a question I wanted to ask our panelists.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we do have about 5 minutes. So if both of you could chime in I would love to hear some of the challenges that you faced in your career journey. I know you talked about like be persistent, have that grit. Was there anything in particular that an obstacle that you overcame that you feel is worth sharing for our audience?
When I got my first job in Reston, Virginia, I did not make enough money to get an apartment. So I slept in my car, and I would sleep in my car in the parking lot of the newspaper. And I did that until one day I slept late, and I woke up and all my coworkers were standing around my car, peering into the window. And it was one of the most humbling moments I've ever experienced, but I would not trade it for anything, because to me, it just talks about if you want it, you really got to go after it. And sometimes you will be uncomfortable. And along with that, you will run into some real idiots out there in the world. And you cannot let the idiots break your spirit. That's real. And as you can see, I won't say that, but yeah, everyone's not friendly. Everyone doesn't have your best interest at heart or in mind. But I think this is all part of what Eugene was talking about is grit and perseverance. That you can't let those that aren't looking out for your benefit or your well-being throw you off. You got to push on through.
We have in the audience Paolo. He has a question. Paolo, feel free to unmute yourself. I'm trying to unmute you.
Oh, I didn't have a question.
Oh wait, am I supposed to read this, or are you guys gonna read it too?
We can read.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, actually, it was a photo essay called "Orphans of Addiction," and I spent about 6 months or so documenting what it's like for kids to grow up with parents who are drug addicts. And we did it in Long Beach, California, because at the time, Long Beach was the most diverse community, I want to say in the United States, maybe, outside of the borough of Queens.
Any other questions? Eugene, did you want to chime in on my last question?
I think I will echo the sentiment about money. Money, you basically, if you want to get a job in Hollywood, you need a side hustle. You need to be able to pay rent when you're not making money as a writer. So don't be afraid to pick up any little job that you can. Don't be afraid to ask your folks for help. This is part of the grit I was talking about. You just need to work in any way you can and just stay in Los Angeles, because that's where most of the work is. And hopefully, if you stick around long enough, it will pay off.
Perfect. Good advice. Thank you. Brianna?
All right, so we do have, we are out of time, but we are very happy that you guys all joined us today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much to our panelists. You guys both provided so much wonderful insight into the arts, media, and entertainment, and I'm sure our audience got some really good information that I know that I did, and I look forward to sharing that with our students. So thank you so much from the Career Education Department, and we will bid you adieu.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.
You.
It's a pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much, Eugene.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.